जैसे क्लास में करते हैं, ठीक है ठीक है, ओके यूट्यूब वाला, हाँ ठीक है, ओके ओके। सो गुड इवनिंग। उतना दूर क्यों? अच्छा ठीक है। सो वी आर गोइंग टू कवर थर्ड वीक, ठीक है, अप्रैल। सो first is from the theme of biodiversity itself, ठीक है, biodiversity, and there is a emperor penguin, okay, emperor penguin. So emperor penguin declared as endangered by IUCN. Which theme it is? Biodiversity plus conservation, ठीक है। We know what is IUCN, ठीक है। IUCN will tell us what is the status with respect to the population of the species that is available, endangered, critically endangered, vulnerable, ठीक है। These are the ones that are very very important for us. Now this biodiversity plus conservation, this becomes important to us. Why? Because one of the another reason for this to have a theme in our sections is climate change. Okay, from the perspective of biodiversity loss, we have seen that there is evil quartet, and therefore the first thing that we study there is habitat degradation and fragmentation. This is a case of habitat degradation, okay. So here you will see that emperor penguin declared as endangered by IUCN. So things that are important for us is to understand what kind of species this is, emperor penguin, okay. So first it is declared as endangered. IUCN, International Union for Conservation of Nature, acts as a sentinel species for climate change in Antarctica. What is sentinel species? So you have heard about various types of species, keystone species, indicator species, flagship species, है ना? Range of species are there. This is a kind of indicator species. When we say sentinel species, we are meaning to say that they are indicator species. The only difference is that even at the earlier stage, they would be able to indicate the climate change. Okay, that means these are the species that early stage, they will help us to identify any type of environmental degradation. Okay, so something that can come into our exam is something that you पूछ सकते हैं कि what is sentinel species, ठीक है, or what other types of sentinel species do we have, ठीक है, what other kind of indicator species we have. For example, we were covering a news about Ganga, that Ganga's flow has improved and Ganga overall the indicators have improved. What is the indicator species for Ganga? Dolphin. Also घड़ियाल्स, है ना, घड़ियाल का क्या है स्टेटस? क्रिटिकली एंडेंजर्ड. फॉर डॉल्फिन इट इज एंडेंजर्ड, ठीक है. नोटिस दिस पिक्चर, ठीक है, दिस इज अ मेल पेंगुइन, मेल, ठीक है. व्हाट इट डज इज फॉर 2 months, that means 60 to 70 days, it will keep the egg on its leg. It will not let the egg to fall off on the ice, because that will lead to the ice breaking into the egg and freezing it. Okay. So for 2 months it will not go anywhere. Okay, it will not feed on anything. It will just go and utilize the fat that is stored within its body. Okay. So this is one of the features of emperor penguin. We'll see more about it. Okay, species basics and adaptations. Okay, adaptations are necessary. Whenever we talk about adaptations, we are sure that there must be some types of major abiotic limiting factors, and major abiotic limiting factors will drive these adaptations. So what are the basics? First, it is the largest and the heaviest penguin. Largest. Can you guess what is the height of this? Almost here. This is 1.1 to 1.3 meters. ठीक है, 1.1 to 1.3 meters, so tall. What is the weight? 22 to 23 kgs, लगभग इतना, ठीक है. That means this is one of the heaviest, and it has distinct golden orange streak on the neck. This part, okay, this part. So this is one. Navigation, that is how does it use it has its own navigation senses, that is sun positioning as well as Earth's magnetic field as well as memory. We have learnt about one more type of species that uses navigation. Olive ridley turtles. And olive ridley turtles, we have talked about it. Natal homing. Natal homing means that they will come back to their own birthplace. The mothers will come back to their own birthplace. Similarly, they will also utilize sun's position, Earth's magnetic field, and their own memory of the routes that they have migrated in. Okay. Do they fly? Are they birds? They are birds, but they don't fly. Okay. Thermoregulation. One more thing, very, very important. Thermoregulation. This huddling behavior. Okay. When the temperature is as low as minus 40 degrees Celsius, do you know what do they do? This is a behavioral adaptation that they see. Okay. Behavioral adaptation means that it is embedded within their DNA. That means it is not like it is a community practice, but they will do out of their compulsion because it is embedded in their genes. So this is huddling behavior. What is huddling? They will come in a group together. Okay. Minus 40 degrees Celsius, wind is flowing. Okay. Minus 40 degrees Celsius. So you will find all the penguins, they will form a concentric circles like this. Like this. This is called huddling behavior. Okay. At the core, you will find that the temperature will rise up till 20 degrees Celsius. Bahar it is minus 40 degrees Celsius. Inside it is 20 degrees Celsius. What will happen to the outer ones? The ones who are facing it, facing the wind flow, they will slowly come inside, and the inside ones will slowly come outside. They will start rotating. Okay. So 20 degrees Celsius, imagine. Where is this heat generated from? Do they have heater? Yes. They have their own metabolic activities. Metabolic activities that is going to produce heat, and they are going to trap it. This huddling behavior actually helps in trapping it. Okay. So they also, in this thermoregulation process, they also rotate positions and they conserve their heat. Okay. Breeding and survival strategy, another type of, because this is consisting of a lot of major abiotic limiting factors. Unique breeding pattern, that means they breed in the harsh Antarctic winter. That means they require ice. That means that is their habitat. Or you could say this is their reproductive niche. Reproductive niche. Okay, what is niche? That is, we are saying that it is the preference in which the animal or any organism chooses to live. So parental roles, what are the parental roles? First, as we had discussed, male incubates the egg on feet. What happens is, the female will lay the egg and the female will go in search of food. Okay? So female travels long distances and returns with food for the chick. Okay? By that time, 60 to 70 days, what will the male do? It will incubate the egg on the feet itself. That means it cannot let the egg drop onto the ice, and also it has to keep it warm. Okay? In this process, when it is 2 months, it has to survive without eating. Okay? That means they utilize the energy out of their fat reserves. Okay? So this is a considerable amount of sacrifice. After the female comes back with food, the male penguin would be something that would be very, very exhausted, and then it will be taken over by the female. Okay? So it is extreme physiological as well as behavioral adaptation that we observe in the emperor penguin. Now, climate change impact. What is the impact on their habitat? First, they rely on the sea ice. This we have seen before, on breeding, hunting, living. All of these requires the sea ice to be present. But now with respect to climate change, what we are finding that there has been shrinking of cryosphere, melting, ice sheets. Okay. All of these are melting. And therefore, there has been sea ice decline, there has been habitat loss, and the projection is that population may decline by 50% by 2080s. Okay? So this is how climate change ka agar we have to understand it, climate change affecting biodiversity. How? By affecting its habitat loss. ठीक है. So this means it is highly vulnerable to climate instability. Climate instability. This is in Antarctica. Which one is colder, Antarctica or Arctic? Antarctica is colder, and Arctic is almost 4 times more warmer than the global average. Sentinel species, so we have talked about it. I just prepared this list, the list of examples. Definition: species whose health reflects the ecosystem condition. Okay, that means early on, it is like early warning signal. Then function: early warning of all of these things. Okay. Characteristics: they will have fixed habitats, they will have long lifespan, and they will be sensitive to environmental stress. This is fine, this you will be able to figure out, but write this part down. Okay, that means these are the animals that can tell you whether the whether the environmental indicator of stress is there or not. Okay. Frogs, because of their permeable skin. Honeybees, because they are pollinators, and therefore they will interact with the agricultural farms. You will find that if there is greater usage of pesticides, there will be decline in the honeybees. Polar bears, Arctic contamination. Arctic contamination, this relates to directly to the process of biomagnification. You will see that polar bears are the apex predator, and therefore they are much more susceptible to poisoning. If there is pollution, then it will reach the polar bears. Fish, industrial runoff. Okay, what is a kind of homeostasis that fish exhibit? Homeostasis is equilibrium with the external shock. When the external shock is delivered to a fish, it will, for some time, it is going to go for suspension. It's called diapause. Okay, just like fish, other phytoplanktons are also there, other aquatic species are also there. They will suspend their activities for the time being. Okay. Next. Now this is also about biodiversity. Acha, bahut sara, whatever biodiversity we have, you try to understand the ecological significance. Okay, it is very difficult to cover all of these things in class, but as and when they come into the news, let us try to understand their ecological significance as well. Okay, ecological significance means the study of interactions. What is the interaction that it has with its living components as well as the non-living components? So ecological significance and conservation. Now we are talking about oak forests, and that too with respect to Himalayas. So this is something that relates to that there has been clearing of forest. Okay, and Uttarakhand High Court has stayed oak tree felling in Mussoorie. Okay, Mussoorie. What is the reason? There was no forest, no objection certificate. That means they did not have this delivered from the forest department. And also there are ecological concerns. We learned about the ecological concerns. What is the core issue? Why was such kind of felling of trees was required? It is for urban expansion. And also we understand that there is fragile Himalayan ecosystems that is sustained by the plantation of these kind of trees. Okay? So this keyword is very important. Ecological infrastructure. Oak trees are ecological infrastructure. They support a large ecosystem in themselves. And correlate this. Kaisa tha? This was inverted when we were talking about one tree in tree ecosystem. Pyramid of numbers. So very, very important ecological significance of this. Oak forests. Okay. Genus, species, all of that is there. What is the altitude? They may ask this. 800 to 3000 meters. They may ask you to arrange them in the order of the altitude where they are found. Okay, oak forest. What are the Himalayan species? You will find Banj, Moru, Kharsu, Rianj, Falyat. Don't need to memorize this, but at least when it comes, you should recognize this. Ecosystem type, temperate broadleaf forest. You can see from the leaves itself, it is broadleaf. Temperate means that it will occur at colder temperatures. Okay. With respect to latitudes, it is the mid latitudes, or with respect to the altitude, it is in colder regions. So we are saying temperate broadleaf forest. It is distinct from coniferous forest. Coniferous forest. Remember this triangle we talked about. सबसे ऊपर क्या था? This is polar. Then you had tundra. Then taiga और boreal. है ना? यहाँ पे क्या था? Tropical rain forest. यहाँ पे you will have warm desert. Here you will have cold desert. In the middle portions, this one you will have grasslands, है ना? Savannas, prairies, all of these grasslands. So this depends upon your temperature as well as the moisture content within the ecosystem. ठीक है? So we are saying coniferous forest कहाँ पर है? This is the coniferous forest. This is coniferous forest. So we will find what are the coniferous forest trees. Pine तो है ही. What else? Spruce. Yes. ठीक है. These are coniferous forest trees. ठीक है. Very very important. क्योंकि they are very less in number. Also there are certain types of specific things that these will exhibit. Specific characteristics होते हैं इस coniferous forest के. You can see the structure. Okay. This is like this. Why do you think it is like this? To shed off any kind of snow accumulation. Okay. It should not cause any kind of physical breakage to the plant. Okay. Oak is high water retention. These are the characteristics of oak trees. High water retention is there. Dense canopy. Canopy is this only. This is the dense canopy. Okay. That means what is the spread of the leaves or the branches? When we talk about pine, it has low water retention, it is fire prone and it has monoculture tendency. अब देखो low water retention क्यों? It is already a tree where it is found in coniferous forest. Coniferous forest, do they have abundant moisture conditions? No. So it is a type of a plant or a tree that exists in zero, or you could say xeric conditions. Xeric conditions मतलब low water conditions. ठीक है. One is this, ये याद रखना, xeric conditions. Second, fire prone. Fire prone means that it will survive even in fire. Oak trees will not survive in fire, but they are able to survive in fire as well. Okay. And monoculture tendency means they will outcompete the other resources, the other type of biodiversity that is available. What is the reason? The reason is their needle-like leaves. Their needle-like leaves, when they fall to the ground, these needles will actually have acidic medium, acidic content within them. Okay. When they fall on the ground, they will inhibit the growth of other seedlings. ठीक है. So monoculture tendency means outcompete other vegetation, outcompete other types of trees. ठीक है. So basically we are seeing a competition between oak and pine is winning that race. And also oak is facing another kind of issue, that is people are using it extensively. Ecological role plus biodiversity importance. See, watershed protection, groundwater recharge, just like any other tree. Okay. Soil conservation, it prevents erosion, landslides, carbon sequestration, okay, biomass bound carbon. It has higher such kind of carbon sequestration, higher than pine. Okay, because the canopy is wider. The total biomass content within an oak tree is much higher than that compared to a pine tree. Microclimate regulation, okay, it creates a cool and moist environment, helps in hydrological cycle. ठीक है. Biodiversity, it supports, we are talking about oak. What kind of habitats does it support? Multi-layered habitat. You can have lichens, you can have orchids, bryophytes, okay, all types of things in the plant kingdom. ठीक है. Birds, how many birds? 491 in Almora. These are the names of the places: Almora, Tehri and Chamoli. Fauna, Himalayan langur. These you all have to write down. Himalayan langur, flying squirrel, Asiatic black bear. This can be asked. Okay. Now the reasons: socio-economic importance. One, see, 25 to 30 kg per household per day of fuel wood is provided by these oak trees. ठीक है? Then fodder. Fodder means for the cattle, what the food is being provided, that food 15 to 22 kg per day. 15 to 22 kg supports rural livelihoods as well as agriculture. That means supports the animals, supports the people for their cooking needs, and also supports their livelihood income. Okay, so this is extremely important when we are talking about socio-economic importance. Ecological importance, so we have seen degradation drivers, forest loss almost 0.36 kilometer square per year. ठीक है, it is being overtaken by the pine expansion replacing oak. How is pine replacing it? Out competing कैसे? एक तो leaves will have acidic content and therefore you will not find the seedlings to grow very conducively, seedlings of oak to grow very conducively. Second, pine is fire prone. Okay, that means it can survive fire also. Fire will eliminate oak and it will leave out the pines. ठीक है? Grazing, litter removal. Okay, litter removal will lead to soil fertility. It will not get replenished. Okay, even if we were talking about soil fertility, soil erosion, but soil fertility will not get replenished. Urbanization, tourism, roads, all of this infrastructure competes with what? The felling of trees. That is deforestation. Forest fires, oak vulnerable post fire. So this we have seen, forest fires will also contribute. Forest fires are also, they can be both natural as well as man-made. Okay. So impacts, one is reduced, वही है, उल्टा है ना, of what are the functions, that means whatever was the ecological significance, we write opposite to it. Reduce spring recharge, water scarcity, biodiversity loss, soil erosion and landslides, regeneration failure. Regeneration failure means regeneration of what? Regeneration of the oak trees. Okay, that means whether they are able to grow again or not. Okay, after damage is done. Livelihood insecurity, we have seen how it helps in fuel wood, how it helps in fodder. Okay, how it helps in agriculture as well. Legal context, which are the acts that you can refer to when you are talking about felling of trees, when we are talking about deforestation? One is Forest Conservation Act 1980. Very important. 1980 Forest Conservation Act, also very important because recently last year it has undergone, last 2 years it has undergone amendment. FCA 1980. That means more, two things do you remember? एक तो नॉन फॉरेस्ट पर्पस था, ओके, एंड अप्रूवल फॉर फॉरेस्ट एरिया टू बी डाइवर्टेड फॉर नॉन फॉरेस्ट पर्पस. दिस वाज टू बी टेकन बाय द सेंट्रल गवर्नमेंट. मतलब अप्रूवल हैज टू बी टेकन, स्टेट सब्जेक्ट और central subject, you will have to take the approval from the central government. So one is Forest Conservation Act 1980. Then it is linked to Article 21 also, right to life, which is talking about environmental jurisprudence. Article 21. Okay. So what is the way forward? It is again from the issues itself that prevent oak to pine conversion. This has to be stopped. That means oak has a lot of pressure. Okay, oak is very, very resourceful, and because of its socio-economic importance as well as ecological importance. Socio-economic pressure is also there on oak, and then ecological pressure is also there on oak. Okay, so deforestation must be stopped. Otherwise, the Himalayan ecosystem is something that is endangered. Regulate development in hills and towns. Regulate development matlab developmental infrastructure, roads, tourism, everything has to be regulated. Integrate oak conservation in water security planning. ठीक है? Why? Because it helps in recharge. Helps in recharge. Helps in hydrological cycle. Okay, now this is the next news. This is DFPIBM model predicting pollen dispersion in urban areas. Basically, what has happened is key pollens. What are pollens? You could say that they are kind of a powder that is released by the plants. Okay, they are yellowish in color and they help in pollination. Okay, yellowish in color, help in pollination. Okay, sometimes you will see them, then they also can be invisible to naked eye. Okay, they can also be invisible to naked eye. Now what happens is that we go on saying that there is UHI, that is urban heat island effect. We are saying that urban areas, they have higher temperatures as compared to the rural surroundings. Okay? So there is urban heat island effect. So one of the solution is ki plant as many trees as possible. Plant as many trees as possible. Plant as many vegetation as possible so that the heat absorption in these trees can happen. Okay. But there is a research. The research says that if you go on planting trees, what will happen, or planting any kind of vegetation, you will face that there is increase in pollens. And this pollen is responsible for various kinds of diseases. Hay fever, asthma. Okay. That means you will feel some kind of congestion within your respiratory system when you inhale these pollens, when you inhale the atmosphere that is laden with pollens. Okay. So this is research. This research is actually about this. That is DFPIBM, direct forcing porous immersal boundary method. Just a method in which we are understanding whether the pollens are being infused into the atmosphere, and especially in these urban areas where it is proposed as a solution. Okay? Pollen dispersion in urban areas. Core purpose, track how pollen moves in the cities. Okay? Because the carrier of pollen is wind. So wind flow plus barriers. What are the barriers that they are going to see? So address rising allergy plus urban planning concerns. Okay? Key insight, urban greening is not always healthy. Okay? It can also increase the allergen exposure. Okay? Now, this scientific mechanism won't be asked, okay, but just so that you understand, because this topic has been there. So one, the core idea is that trees are treated as the porous structures. Porous structures matlab ki that you can have the particles, you can have the pollens, you can have anything that can flow through them. Okay, they are going to prove to be a barrier, but they are also porous. That means they will also let it go. Okay. So this is a diagram. This says there is perpendicular wind direction and this is parallel wind direction. Parallel to what? Parallel to the trees. Perpendicular what? Perpendicular to the trees. Okay. Perpendicular to the trees. So it is just observing that agar wind is tarike se aata hai, so pollutants will get trapped. Some of the pollutants will also get trapped by these trees. Okay. Some pollutants will be captured by trees. Okay. So they are also measuring, there are greater concentrations on the leeward side. Okay, windward side, leeward side, there will be greater concentrations here, smaller concentrations on the windward side here. So they are basically trying to analyze how does the tree or how does urban greening contribute to lowering or trapping of pollens. Okay, whether it increases it or whether it decreases it, whether it is a contributor of pollens or whether it is a trap for pollens. Okay. So air flows through leaves and branches, so they are treating this as a porous structure. Simulation inputs, wind speed and pressure, leaf density, tree structure. That means what is the structure of tree? Okay, what is the density of the leaves? Okay, how much porous it is depends upon the density also. That means how much of the vascular structures does it have. Then output, it tracks the pollen grains movement after release, uses physical laws, fluid dynamics and forces. ठीक है. So fluid dynamics किसके लिए? Wind flow के लिए. So from this whole thing, wind flow, then you will have to understand porous structure of trees. Trees as a source of pollens as well as a trap for the pollutants. ठीक है. Now this is accuracy. ठीक है, एक बार बस देख लो इसको. That is 5% deviation from real world data. That means it is considered to be a model that is quite accurate in itself. Advanced modeling simulates pollen detachment force. Okay, pollen detachment force means how, मतलब कि simple बात है. If there is a plant like this, if there is wind flow, okay, and because of this wind flow, you will find that certain pollens are being emitted, certain pollens are being released. It is basically asking how much amount of force should this wind carry so that the pollens must be released. So 50 billionth of a Newton. 50 billionth. What is 50 billionth? Is it 50 billion? 1 by 50. मतलब इतना सा, मतलब फूक मारो, मतलब you can actually blow this flower and you will find pollens to be released. It is tested on real trees, oak, linden. Key findings are this: that sparse trees, there is smooth dispersion. When there are dense trees, that means when you have more number of trees that are closely spaced and they are also competing with each other, you will have turbulent bursts of what? Turbulent bursts of pollens. Okay, it is like a pipe that is getting restricted and the wind is trying to flow. So you will have more number of pollens being flushed out. Thousands of pollen grains released in seconds. ठीक है. Significance with respect to humans: one is public health, allergen hotspots. Second, helps manage asthma, hay fever, and important as climate change. Longer pollen seasons, है ना, ये भी important है. Then when we are talking about climate change, first we talked about biodiversity. Now we are also talking about climate change and its effect on public health. How do we connect it? We say that because of higher or longer seasons or change in seasons, okay, or change in the way the seasons are there. Longer seasons, you will also have longer dispersal of these pollen. Environmental links urban greening with ecological impact. है ना? Urban greening, we talked about urban heat island effect, and we find vegetation to be a solution to this urban heat island effect. But then it is also laden with pollens. Helps choose low allergen species. So this is basically understanding कि let us try and choose such kind of species. Even if we are going for such kind of greening, urban greening, vegetation, let us choose some types of species that can emit less number of pollen grains. ठीक है. Urban governance, for the urban governance, it guides what? It guides where to plant the trees, which species to plant. That is where and which species. ठीक है. So this is just a research. One keyword you can write: health sensitive city planning. Health sensitive city planning. ठीक है. Next, again, we are talking about biodiversity. This is a significant news. Also asked in your, I think, 2024 paper, India, there was flying fox, question on flying fox. And also it was, I think, assertion reasoning. Statement 1 and statement 2 was there, and they asked about whether vermins are there in the Wildlife Protection Act or not. So this is related to that, and therefore I feel that it is important, because first ever bat conservation assessment flags threat to the species. Okay? That means we are assessing what kind of bats do we have. First ever bat conservation assessment flags threat to the species. Data dark spots. This is not wrong English. It is just saying that, it is a pun that they say that there is a blind spot. because bats are blind also, and blind spots on data. Okay, that means the data is not sufficient for us to understand what is the ecological role, or whether we should go for conservation, or usually the society will fear the bats. Okay, usually they will feel that they will spread diseases. है ना? So what is the ecological role? That will be understood only when we have the data. But what we have right now is data, dark spots. ठीक है? So why in news? India's first national bat conservation assessment 2024-25 it was done. 36 experts, 27 institutions were a part of this research. There has been key findings. One finding is that there are rising threats. Okay, habitat. Again, it will be the major threat of biodiversity loss. Habitat. One is urbanization, land use change, particularly because you will understand, because they are also interacting with the agricultural ecosystems, and then climate impacts. Climate impacts. Okay. There is presence of data dark spots. That means they do not have adequate number of evidences to form some certain type of knowledge. Core insight: India doesn't have a bat conservation problem. It actually has a what kind of problem? Bat knowledge problem. Okay. That means we are not effectively, for any conservation project to start, you need to have the number of individuals. IUCN status से ही you understand that you need to have the population status. Otherwise, how will you assess whether the population has declined over time or not, or whether your conservation projects have been effective or not. Okay, so on the board is India. This is Indian flying fox. Okay, you see the name flying fox. It looks like a fox. It looks like a fox and it is flying. So this was a question, I think in 2024 PYQ. Okay. Up until that, Wildlife Protection Act used to carry vermins. Vermins, they will say that they will have what kind of vermins? Bats would be there, crows, rats. Now the vermin is decided by the government, as per case to case basis, as per how much is the ecosystem carrying capacity. Basics, that is we are talking about ecology. One, it is the only flying mammal. What are the characteristics of mammals? They lay eggs, young ones, they give birth to live young ones. They are warm-blooded. Okay. So we have mammals on land, on water, and in the sky also. Okay. Bat is the only flying mammal. Ecological roles: pollination. Okay, pollination. Then seed dispersal, forest regeneration. What do? Seed dispersal. क्या करते हैं? They will eat the fruits. Okay, they will eat the fruits, and then they will, as they are flying from one place to the other, they will just throw it out of their mouth. Okay, that is required for seed dispersal and forest regeneration. Pest control, agriculture. There is one important thing that dolphins also exhibit. What is that? Echolocation. Very good. Echolocation. तो इसमें क्या होता है? Echolocation में it is like a, yes, that means they will throw the sound waves and then it will hit the object and then it will come back to them. Okay, they will locate. They are not having any kind of eyes. Can dolphins see? They will have, yes, which means that they have blurry vision, only peripheral vision, or they can locate that there is something over there. Okay, that kind of a vision they will have. Nutrient cycling, guano. Okay, this is related to the feces. Okay, that means the feces, that is, or the excretion of this bat is going to be very, very rich in nutrients. It is going to be something that will help in the nutrient cycling process. Also going to help agriculture. N/P/K ratio, it will increase this excretion. Okay. Perception issue. That means what about the society? What does the society think about these bats? It is linked to zoonotic diseases, something that can be transmitted from the animal to the humans. Zoonotic diseases, especially post-COVID. Okay, you also had Ebola virus. Okay, that was also due to the spread by fruit bats. So example, this one is very, very important to us, and it is shifting towards near threatened. Try to remember this. Conservation status for India, 135 species are there, 16 are endemic, 7 are threatened and 35 data deficient. बस ये याद रखो, that is done. 16 and you can also remember this, 7 threatened. What about this Indian flying fox? Near threatened. ठीक है. What are the key threats? We have seen this: urbanization, habitat loss, deforestation, mining, land use change. है ना? We are talking about agriculture. Persecution, because of the stigma of the society. You will find that there will be persecution. That means they will be meeting cruelty of the people. Critical issue, large proportion, and it is not even studied properly. This is one of the biggest issues, and that is what this assessment seeks to cover. Okay, what are data dark spots? There are certain areas where the research distribution is not adequate. That means there are certain areas where it is well studied, whether it is understudied. Okay, well studied Western Ghats and South India, well studied, understudied in Himalayas, Northeast. Jabki ye sare, it is biodiversity hotspot also. Right? You remember biodiversity hotspots? What is it? How many biodiversity hotspots? 4. Okay. Total global biodiversity hotspots is 36. Out of that, India has 4. Okay. Himalayas, Western Ghats, Sundaland. Sundaland will include what? Andaman. Yes. Okay. And Eastern Ghats and Terai region. Habitat use, natural, caves, trees, man-made buildings and monuments. Okay. Usually you will find them in these habitats. Okay. So it means कि अगर if they are found in monuments, I will have to talk to which one? I will have to talk to Archaeological Survey of India. है ना? As and where the habitats change, I will have to talk to the respective authority. So conflict issue, conflict is colonies and monuments, Delhi, Hyderabad, Maharashtra, tourism versus conservation. Okay, यहाँ पे urbanization. ठीक है. Then we talk about the conservation of monuments also. That means you are talking about tourism versus biodiversity. Okay, so coordination is needed with Archaeological Survey of India here. Now the last topic, mapping the legislative vacuum in India's heat crisis. Okay, I'll explain this directly, and then we can just see the facts and everything. The thing is, what is the crux of this matter is that we say that there is continuous climate change. Climate change is causing global warming. Because of global warming, I am seeing that there is rise in temperature. Okay, rise in temperature, suppose say more than 2 degrees Celsius. Now, urban areas. Okay, urban areas are facing much more heat. This is your urban heat island effect. In urban areas, I will have both kind of populations. Okay, I will have the rich people also. I will have the poor people also. Okay, that means people divided by their economic opportunities or economic class. Okay, so the whole point revolves around this fact that because of this climate change, there is heating, and because of this heating in the urban areas, you will have certain type of people who will belong to a certain economic class, and therefore they will not have any kind of prevention, any kind of thing to prevent this heat. Okay, this means that justice, or you could call it thermal justice. Thermal justice is not going to be served. Okay? Just like we talk about at the level of climate change, at the level of conventions with the transboundary, as a transboundary problem with the other nations, we say that we have to go on emitting. Okay, we have CBDRRC. So what is CBDRRC? And respective capabilities. Okay, common but differentiated responsibilities and respective capabilities. So we are saying that justice at every stage is required. That is why we have this principle. Similarly, we have a principle called polluter pays principle. है ना? So we are trying to establish that do we have principle, at this stage we have these principles, and it is very difficult for the developed countries as well as the developing countries to come to terms. But at this level, are we recognizing this kind of a justice, this kind of injustice that is happening? Okay? So it is basically talking about how do you plan to serve thermal justice to the poor people, to the people who are not able to manage the kind of heat that is being generated in the urban areas. That is the whole issue. Okay? So there is an opinion and there is also a case, and that is called, that will have a right, and that right is right to cooling. Right to cooling. Right to cooling is under your Article 21 itself, which means that when we are talking about right to cooling, we are saying that heat or the effect of climate change, we have to adapt to it. There has to be adaptation measures, and therefore as a part of right to life, we must include right to cooling, because not everyone is privileged enough, not everyone has the economic class to have this thermal justice by their own. So thermal justice forms a part of your social justice. Okay? So this is the whole crux. Now the title reads, Mapping the Legislative Vacuum in India's Heat Crisis. That means we are already facing this heat crisis, but we do not have a legislation for it. Do we have a legislation for climate change? That is schemes, a National Action Plan for Climate Change. Is it a legislation? Is it a law? It's not a law. For example, for environment we have a law, Environmental Protection Act. Okay. For biodiversity we have law, Biological Diversity Act. For forest we have a law, Forest Conservation Act. Okay. For wildlife, Wildlife Protection Act. For this, Climate Change Act, no. We only have action plans. Iske liye bhi we have heat action plans. You will see we will have heat action plans, but they will also not have legislative teeth, the legal teeth that we call. That means they are not able to implement things. They are just going to talk about things endlessly. Why in news? One is rising extreme events, heat events in India. 57% districts, heat prone, very, very important, and covering how much of the population? 76% of the population. Okay. The ones that are colder or having ambient temperatures, you will find that they are mostly on the coast side. But the coast side is also going to get submerged. Okay, there is going to be sea level rise. Core issue, heat wave is something that means, ab dekho, we talk about, there is a very important term called climate injustice or climate justice. Okay. Up it will, from the environment part coming to the socio-economic part. It is becoming a socio-economic as well as a human rights crisis. That means what will you do about the displacement of people? What will you do? Because the thermal injustice that is being meted out, it is also going to cause greater inequalities in the workers' productivity, in the kind of income that they can generate. Okay? So this is your thermal injustice, unequal exposure and unequal capability to cope. Okay? Both on both account, exposure bhi and ability to cope, coping mechanism. Okay? Both of them are unable, both of them are disabled for the economic class, poor economic class. First, how extreme heat creates thermal injustice. Okay, these 3 points are here. One, there is unequal exposure. Unequal exposure, we were talking about urban heat island effect. That means surrounding areas will have lower temperatures. This urban area will have more heat accumulated. So dense urban areas, higher temperatures, vulnerable groups are most affected. Okay, why? Because they mostly will be working in certain types of regions where cooling is not there. Okay, that means most of them will be employed in which sector? Construction sector. Okay, most of this employment will not have anything to cool that environment. Second, right to cooling. This is again something that is unequal. Okay, that means because of certain types of differences, you will have, the rich will have AC, they will have insulated housing, they will have private transport. Okay, that means it saves them from the heat exposure, while the poor, they will have fans, shade, weak public infrastructure. All of these, only these things are available to them. So cooling becomes a privilege and not a right. Okay, privilege matlab ki it is going to drive in inequality. Okay. Third, lack of cooling autonomy. Lack of cooling autonomy. 400 to 490 million informal workers are there, and they work in extreme heat without control. ठीक है, 490 million. This will directly affect your workers' productivity. है ना? Examples: construction workers. They are working in the presence of such kind of materials that are going to be absorptive of heat. Also, they will be working at a very, very high temperature. है ना? Steel, concrete, very high temperatures. Sanitation workers, toxic, high temperature environment. That means you are already having toxic substances there, plus you are providing higher temperature environment in those conditions. है ना? Much more important for the chemical reactions to occur. Very difficult to work in such kind of situations. ठीक है? Survival dilemma. ठीक है? This is more from the ethical point of view. Survival dilemma is there that if they don't work, how will they earn? Okay, if they don't earn, how will they eat? So if they work in the heat, there is health risk. If they don't work, there is income loss. Okay, this is your survival dilemma. Survival dilemma for the poor class. Poor class, particularly those who do not have cooling, or cooling is a privilege for them. Okay. One is this economic impact. This is something that you can write down. 247 billion labor hours are lost. $194 billion income loss. This part. Public health. Which are the people who are much more vulnerable? Children, elderly, pregnant women. These are the ones that are much more vulnerable. Hidden injustice. As with every other case, there is underreporting. NCRB का भी case, that is whenever you have certain types of crimes, you will find that there is underreporting. People do not report the missing people or the deaths. Those who suffer the most are the least counted. So this means that maybe the problem is much more bigger than what we have imagined, what has come across in the reports. ठीक है? So this legal and policy gaps, this is important for us. One thing is disaster framework gap. Okay. So what is required? कि देखो heat waves, when we are talking about heat waves, IMD क्या बोलता है? Like above which temperature it is a heat wave? Greater than 45 degrees Celsius. Like in every situation, whether you are at hill, whether you are in plains, whether you are anywhere, if you are having more than 45 degrees Celsius, it is going to be classified as a heat wave. Other than this, lagbhag 40 degrees Celsius you can imagine, okay, in different types of regions. So we are saying that, let us say that whenever there is more than 45 degrees Celsius, a disaster has occurred. Let us include this within the definition of Disaster Management Act, okay, 2005. So this is something that is not notified as a disaster. This is a very big legal gap. Heat waves not notified disasters under Disaster Management Act 2005. In NDMA, okay, there is, what kind of authorities are there here? National Disaster Management Authority, SDMA, and then you will have DDMA. Okay, 3-tier governance, just like your Panchayati Raj institutions. Okay, district and state, and then National Disaster Management Authority. So you will have certain types of funds that are allocated so that it can feed into the cycle of disaster management. We talk about when the disaster has occurred and how do you prevent it, how do you rehabilitate the people, and how do you prevent it from happening further. Okay? So this kind of fund, this fund is not something that is made available. So limited fund, no NDRF. What is NDRF? National Disaster Response Fund. Okay. So there is no access to funds. Second, labor law failure. Even there are legal gaps when we talk about the labor laws. What are the labor laws? It is called the labor code. Okay. There are 4 labor codes. One of which is this OSHWC. What is this? Occupational Safety and this is well-being. You will have to see. ठीक है. This is out of the 4 codes, you will have occupational safety as well. One of the codes is with respect to 2020, you will have occupational safety as well. ठीक है. No mandatory heat safety rules are there. That means it is not included within the rules itself. Factories Act 1948 does not talk about the outdoor workers, the ones that are much more vulnerable. Okay. 1948, this also act was subsumed within the labor code, within the 4 labor codes that we have. ठीक है. Then you have weak heat action plans. Weak heat action plans, one is it is advisory and it is not enforceable because it does not have certain type of funding. It does not have any funding. There is no accountability also. Okay, it is just something that we are seeing but we are not implementing. Then informal and gig worker blind spot, that is there is no wage compensation. Gig workers face algorithm pressure. Can you correlate what are gig workers and how do they face algorithm pressure? That means gig workers are the ones that take up gigs. Gigs as in what is the next project that you have. Okay. So what do they do? For example, the delivery partners that you have. Okay, Swiggy, Zomato, all of these delivery partners, they will also face these algorithm pressure. They will not say, what will happen is nobody wants to deliver in heat. Okay, nobody wants to deliver in afternoon, but they will face algorithm pressure. That means there will be surge pricing. Okay, at that point of time, there will be certain workers that will go out, still go out because they need the income, they need the money. Okay, so this is also going to be a blind spot that these people are still going to work. Okay. Fifth, measurement gap. Focus on dry temperature only. Okay, this is one more thing that we must measure heat as a form of heat index. Okay, it is a proposal also that you should not just measure the temperature, but you should also measure humidity. Why? Because humidity also feels like that there is increase in temperature. So heat index should include both of these parameters. So focus on dry temperature only. It does not include humidity. Therefore, it underestimates risks. So these are the gaps. ठीक है? So this is all 5 news. ठीक है? Okay. Thank you. Okay.